All right, so I'm gonna walk you through a quick flow. I'll cue through everything, but then after that, I will go through it in the actual speed that you could go through it on a regular basis, which will be a little bit quicker. So first round will just be getting a feel for each of the shapes, and the second round will be actually moving through it at the pace that you would do so if you were to do this, right in the morning or in the evening. So we'll start by really focusing on warming up the hamstrings. So you can have hands together at the heart center to stabilize or at the hips, and lift the left knee up and extend, and bend, extend. Inhale every time you bend it, exhale to extend. On this fifth one, we'll hold and maybe pulse up for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Step that foot down and slide the right foot back slightly. Check that all 10 toes point forward and that the feet are on 2 parallel lines, not on a tightrope. Draw the left hip back and right hip forward. From here, you can keep hands at heart center and reach elbows back, hands at hips and reach elbows back, and then lean forward. It can be nice to have, if you have blocks or books or something here, to rest your hands on, just to allow yourself to soften the torso more. That being said, if this hurts your low back at all, sometimes rounding forward hurts the low back, keep a straight spine and just direct the gaze forward as you lean the torso forward. Try to soften the face, relax the jaw. On an inhale, bend slightly into that left leg. Bring the torso upright. And then we're going to lower that right knee. From here, we're going to work on half splits. So also the same idea. We're just getting deeper into the hamstring. First by standing and doing active extension. Second, or I guess it's actually flexion, but we're sending the leg forward. Second, through that pyramid pose, and then third, through this half split. This can be another great place to have blocks for your hands. You can keep hands at your hips, again, pulling left hip back, right hip forward, and then hinging forward. If you have blocks, or if your fingers can touch the ground, then you can always do that. And here we can soften even more, softening the face, letting the torso be heavy. Keep pulling the toes back toward the shin bone, though, to keep that leg really active. And one thing you want to check here is that your right hip is above the right knee. Oftentimes people go back further, but we're looking to keep everything pretty square. Every exhale, let yourself relax a bit more, finding your edge. And then on an inhale, we'll bend into this left knee, and we'll crawl the hands all the way over to the right foot on the other edge of the mat. Again, we'll lower the left knee, but we're still working on the left leg. So this time we're just working on opening through that hip flexor. So you can think of pressing into the big toe edge of each foot and pulling the right heel back, pulling the left knee forward. Not in any strenuous way, just a slight engagement here. Helping pull right hip back, left hip forward. Tuck the tail slightly so that you're not collapsing forward from the ribs. Keeping the core engaged here. Then we can sink the tailbone down toward the mat any amount. Might feel good to have hands at hips, or right hand to right knee, left arm lifts. Maybe you lift both arms. Just make sure that you keep that tuck of the tail, so again, we're not flaring out through the ribs. The navel's drawn toward the spine. On an inhale, inflate the body and bring the fingertips down. From here, we're going to lay down on the stomach and do some back strengthening work. So everything else we've done so far has really focused on the legs, loosening through the hamstrings to help protect the back, to carry more of that flexibility in the legs rather than the back compensating and over mobilizing, which is usually what happens when we have an injury. So now we're going to just work on actually strengthening the back side of the body. The best way to do this is to bring palms face down next to the legs. And on an inhale, lift just the legs. Think of pressing the pelvis into the mat, tucking the tail slightly, and then lower. Lift and lower. And I have my head lifted right now just because I'm speaking as I'm lifting and lowering my legs. But you can have your chin on the mat or your forehead. This last one will lift, hold here, think of really flexing through the glutes and try to lift even a little bit higher. And then slowly release. Now we're going to do that, but with the torso. So press into the tops of the feet so much that the knees lift. Press the pelvis into the mat, tucking the tail slightly. And then on an inhale, we'll lift and lower. Lift, lower. 3 more. Inhale to lift. Exhale to lower. Last one's going to be a hold. Hold that torso up, reach the hands back, keep the shoulders drawn down from the ears. Let the chin be fairly neutral, not straining in any direction. Try to press into the pelvis more. Think of reaching the heart forward and up, helping to recruit some of the muscles in the upper back. And lower. Now before we leave here, we're going to connect those two pieces. So on an inhale, lift the legs, lift the torso, reach the arms back. Keep pressing that pelvis down. Lift the heart forward, shoulders are together on the back, chin is neutral. Maybe try to lift the legs a bit more and then the torso a bit more. And lower. Now, if your back is not strained at the moment, it could feel good to send the knees wide and bring the hips back toward the heels, compensating for the back bend we just did. However, if your back is already feeling a bit strained, sometimes, like I said earlier, this forward folding motion does not feel good in the back. So from here, we can come back to hands and knees. And all we'll do is step the right foot back, crawl the hands back to the front of the mat, and come up to standing. And so we'll just repeat that on the other side. So this time, we'll start by bringing hands to hips, lifting the right leg, knee in line with hip, straightening any amount, and bending. 4 more. Exhale to straighten, inhale to bend. 3, 2. Last one's a hold, maybe pulse out for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Lower that right foot. Maybe step the left one back a bit. Check that all toes point forward. Right hip draws back, left hip draws forward. Elbows draw toward each other. Navel draws in and up as I hinge at the hips. And again, if I can reach the mat, or if I have blocks or books or something to lean my hands on, I can do that here. Maybe even shaking out the head. Stay here for 2 more breaths. Usually each pose, if you think of staying in it for 5 breaths, that's a good amount of time. Inhale to bend gently into that right leg. This time the left foot slides back and that knee lowers. I stack hip over knee and slide the right heel forward, flex those toes, half splits. So again, right hip back, left hip forward, and then hinge at the hips. And if a straight spine feels good, stay there. If you want to round through the spine and shake the head out, it's really just whatever feels best to you, and that might change one day to the next. One thing to think about while we're here is that every inhale creates a little bit more space within the pose. And every exhale allows us to move into that space and go just a tiny bit deeper. On an inhale, we'll bend into that right knee. Curl the hands all the way to the back. And lower the right knee to now focus on stretching the front side of that hip. So again, right hip forward, left hip back, squares the hips. Roll toward the big toe edge of each foot. Energetically draw left heel back, right knee forward, and then bend deeper into this left leg. Let the tailbone go straight down. And another alignment check here is that your left knee is above the ankle or slightly behind, not in front of it though. And you might have more of a squared stance with right knee below right hip. But as you gain more flexibility through that quad and that hip flexor, the right knee can slide back, kind of how mine is. Do whatever arms you did on the last side. Before inhaling to lift out of this. And this time, left foot slides back. And you have options here. We can do another round of that back bending. It's really good work to strengthen the back. You could also instead choose to find a plank and do some core work here. So some fun ways to play with core here would be pressing the mat away, first of all. You can see that between my shoulder blades is slightly lifted. That's a good thing. But then you might lift one leg and lower, and the other leg and lower. And try not to move very much, because that stabilizing all happens in the core. And you might go out to the side and back. Side, back. And again, you might have instead chose to lay on the stomach and do that active back bending. Since we already warmed up with it, you could, instead of lifting legs and then torso, you could just go straight into the full expression. And then left foot forward, crawl back to the front edge of the mat. From here, we can find a seat. And there are some core strengtheners we could do here, because typically low back pain comes from, like I said, either the overmobilization of the low back, or, I should say, or not enough core strength to support. And so some great core would be to flex the toes back, coming into boat pose, reach the hands forward, and stay here, really reaching the heart forward and up. Tall spine for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. We can lower down. And from here, my very favorite core exercise is kind of a weird one. We'll cross the right leg over the left, and then cross the right arm under the left. And backs of hands can come together, or if you can reach around and touch right fingertips to left palm, that's an option, but really whatever. And then we want to glue the low back to the floor. So you can kind of lift the legs, lift the torso a little bit. Keep that low back glued. It's going to require core engagement to keep it pushed down. And then from here, when we inhale, we can reach the hands back and the toes forward to maybe touch the mat, as long as the low back is still glued. And then exhale, contact. Inhale, extend, exhale in. Inhale, extend, exhale in. And you can do a certain amount of these, or you can say, I'm going to do this for 20 seconds. And then just switch. Left leg on top, left arm on bottom. Low back is glued. Exhale to round in, and inhale to extend. As with any strength work, the slower you go, the harder it will be. And then you can relax. And to close, we'll do just 2 more stretches. The first one will again be targeting the hamstrings. So we'll keep the left leg flat on the mat and flex those toes back so you're reaching out of the heel. And then we'll reach this right leg up. Now, you can grab behind it anywhere. The lower you grab, the easier it is. The higher you grab, the more flexibility you have to have. You can also loop a belt around your foot and hold that. But for now, just grab any part of that leg and think of keeping the shoulders down, reaching out of the left heel, and then pulling that right leg toward you. And if anything were to touch, it would be the right knee and the right armpit. So it's not going to be straight down the middle of your face. It's going to be slightly out to the side in line with the hip joint. And keep reaching out of that right heel, flexing those toes back. And then slowly release and switch to the other side. This time we reach out of the right heel and the left heel. Toes are flexed back on both feet. Grab part of the left leg and draw it knee toward armpit. And slowly release. We'll actually plant the feet and we'll bring the left ankle to the right knee and flex those toes back. From here, we can flex the right toes, so the right leg is at a 90 degree. The left leg is also, but it's also figure 4, so we have some external rotation in that hip. You can grab underneath, going through that little window with the left hand, and pull the right knee toward you as you push the left knee away. This will just help mobilize those hips a bit more. Especially helpful if you're sitting at a desk all day. And as you feel ready, just switch right ankle atop left knee, 90 degrees, both legs. Draw that left knee in, push the right knee away. And I sometimes use my right elbow to push that right knee away. But you can just, use the leg itself. And that would be how I would end it. So moving through those few ranges of motion, of course, we could always add in more or explore other ranges of motion and other postures, but this is what I've been having Crosby do for a while, and it's really been helping his low back, and it keeps it brief. So the first few days you might watch through the video, but I bet after watching it 3 to 5 times, you have the sequence down, and then you just move through it. And it's been taking about 10 minutes for Crosby to do it. So I will now go through it in the actual timing that I would without lots of cueing. So let's go ahead and start. Start with hands on hips. Inhale to lift this left leg up. Exhale to extend. Inhale to bend. Exhale, extend. We got 3 more. 2. Last one is going to be a hold, pulse up for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Lower that left foot, slide the right foot back. Square the hips, left back, right forward, all toes point forward, and hinge forward at the hips. 4 more breaths. Inhale to lift the torso back up. Slide the right toes back a little bit. Come into a runner's lunge, and then slide the left heel forward. Right hip above right knee, left toes flex back, hinge forward at the hips. Maybe bringing hands to blocks on either side of this left leg. And here for 4 more breaths. Check that left hip draws back, right hip pulls forward. Inhale, bending into this left leg. Crawl the hands to the right foot at the back edge of the mat. Lower the left knee. Find your low lunge. Right hip back, left hip forward. Navel draws in, tail sinks down. 4 more breaths here. Roll your weight toward the big toe end of each foot. Inhale, press into that right foot. Fingertips on the mat, right foot draws back, find your stomach. Palms face down at your sides. We're going to exhale, lift just the legs and lower. Lift and lower. Lift and lower. Lift and lower. Lift, hold for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Now this time press into the tops of the feet, the pelvis. Inhale, lift the torso and lower. Lift, lower. Lift, lower. Last one's a hold. Lift, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Lower and lift everything. Pressing that pelvis down, reaching up through the heart for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Lower. Option to find child's pose, knees wide, hips toward heels. And if you're ready, we just step the right foot forward, rotate back to the left foot, and step to the front of the mat. This time, root down into the left foot. Inhale, lift the right knee in line with hip. Exhale, straighten. Inhale, bend. Exhale, straighten. 3 more. Last one, we'll hold pulse for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Lower that foot down. Square the hips. All toes point forward, hinge forward, pyramid pose. Remembering to keep the back active and straight, navel drawing towards spine. Or if it feels okay on the back, surrender forward. Hands can be on blocks, on books, on the mat. Last cycle of breath. Bend into that right knee, slide the left toes back. And set up for half splits. Left knee beneath left hip, right toes flex back. And hinge forward. Again, determining for yourself if a straight spine is best or if a rounded spine is best. Right hip draws back, left hip draws forward. We're here for 2 more breaths. Bend into that right knee. Crawl to the left foot. Lower the right knee. Find low lunge. Right hip forward, left hip back, big toe edge of each foot pressing into the mat. Tuck the toe slightly and sink the hips down. 3 more breaths. Inhale to press into the left foot, ease out of this, and swing the left foot back. Option here to either lie on the stomach and do more back bending, or to find plank pose. Maybe alternately lift toes off the mat. Maybe bend the knee and bring it toward the same side edge. And when you're ready, left foot steps forward, crawl back to the front edge of the mat, and find a seat. From here, we enter into our core, first finding boat pose, 90-degree knees, toes flex back, proud chest, long spine for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Lower onto the mat. This is where we do the weird cross leg crunches. Right leg over left, right arm under left. Low back glues to the mat as knees touch elbows. And extend, toes toward mat, fingertips toward mat. Low back stays glued. Exhale in. Inhale, extend. Exhale in. Stay here for just 10 more seconds. Go ahead and switch the cross. Left leg on top, left arm on bottom. Low back glues to the mat. Extend, exhale in. Extend, exhale in. 10 more seconds. Release. This time we'll extend the legs straight on the mat, reach through the heels, and reach this left leg up any amount. It's okay if the knee is bent, as long as you're still reaching through the heel. It's more important that we can bind the leg to some extent. So if that means the knee has to bend, do that, and then just work towards straightening it as we hold here for 10, 9, 8, 7, 6. And keep pulling the knee in on exhales, trying to find a little more depth. Not finding pain, but maybe finding discomfort. 3, 2, 1. Lower the left leg and reach the right leg up and clasp it. Again, holding here, drawing in further on exhales. Inhales, we might not progress forward. We just try to maintain the shape, and then exhales, we try to go just a little deeper. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Release. From here, we'll move into external rotations. So left ankle on right knee, grab the back of the right leg. Both sets of toes flex. And we draw the right knee back, left knee forward. Let's stay here for 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Slow release and switch. Again, setting up, toes flex back, left knee pulls back, right knee pushes forward for 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. and release. You can, of course, add time into any one of those shapes if a certain shape feels particularly good and you want to stay there. If any of these feel particularly bad in the body, then of course do not do them. It's okay to feel discomfort, but if anything causes pain, then ease out of it. Feel free to send me a message and say, hey, here's what I'm experiencing. What do you think? And yeah, just see how it goes. It's more important to be consistent. And so I would say if this takes 10 minutes, start by trying to do it every single day. You might have days where you're like, oh, I could do it in the morning and in the evening. It really does help any amount of time, but especially just this 10-minute thing, if you can do it once a day, just right when you get up or right before you go to bed, it really will be more impactful. Hope that helps.